Welcome back to the Average Jacks podcast, and today I'm joined with a very special guest over in America, one across the pond. That we've I've done this before, but I think it's the second time that I've done this, so I'm really excited for introduce you all to Scott Lackey. Scott, good morning. Thank you for joining me
Good.
on the podcast.
Likewise, Jack, from this side of the pond, it is
Yeah,
good to see you and love your country. And glad we're going to be on this call today, and or not this virtual call today. And let's see what we get into.
yeah. I mean, it's pretty early your time over there, isn't it? You're an early riser, which I'm sure we'll get into. But
Yeah, I am an early riser, so this is not early for me. It's still dark here.
yeah, yeah, that is when we first caught up the other week. I think it was like a 6 a.m. call for you. I was like, that's impressive. To be as like alert and aware as you are, I was like, that's a man who gets up on a regular basis and loves it.
Yep, 100%.
So the last 7 days have been probably pretty hectic for you, pretty big in terms of you've just released your book, haven't you?
Yes, released the book. It's actually been a big 7 days, a huge 7 days, not only because I released the book. My wife is a teacher. Her last day teaching is tomorrow, and my daughter is getting married this weekend.
Oh
So,
wow,
yeah, so in the span of 10 days, a lot of big changes.
yeah. That's a big change, and thank you again for jumping on the podcast. I can imagine it's hectic. It's my 1 year wedding anniversary tomorrow, so
Oh,
yeah. So I can relive all the stresses and the chaos of the few days before the wedding.
well, that's a huge congratulations, Jack. I didn't know that. Huge congratulations. My wife and I will celebrate our 29th wedding anniversary
Wow.
this summer in July. But the first year is an awesome year. Do something special for your bride.
Yeah, definitely. I'll try and keep her happy. You can give me some tips after about how to keep her happy for 29 years,
Okay.
like you've done.
Can I give you a quick tip? This is an
Yeah.
awesome. Then for the listeners, here's a quick tip. You want to do something really special in your first year. You can go to. This has been a long time since I looked this up. Well, you'll have to Google this. It'll come to me in a minute. But there's a website you can go to, and it's called something like Name Your Star or Star Naming or something like that. I mean, over 20 years ago, I actually did something special for my daughter, and I went online, paid the £100, or euros, and got the big giant map, and they actually officially name a real star in the sky above
Wow.
with your daughter's name or your wife's name, right? And so for my daughter's 23, and for 20 of those years, every year she tells people my dad named a star after me,
Yeah, that's
right?
a gesture and a half,
So
isn't it?
that's a cool thing to do for your wife, man. So
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. So the title of the book is "Wake Up to Die Again," and I mean that is an eye-catching, pretty powerful title just in itself. So what does wake up to die again mean to you? Why is the book titled that?
yeah, great question. So really, that book, that title, "Wake Up to Die Again," honestly, it kind of defines how I've lived my life, right? And to die again, what I'm referring to is both. It's both in the very positive sense, and it's also both in the life changing sense, right? Because on one hand, there are listeners, Jack, human beings that they wake up every day and they just give a little bit more of themselves away to the world, and they die a little bit every day. But they give just enough away that they feel like there's no consequences.
Mm,
But they wake up one day and they're 23, 32, 54, and they're like, man, how did I get here?
yeah,
Right? That's the downside. There's millions of people that live that way. They just wake up to die a little bit more every day. Now, if you're willing to put the work in, like you're doing, what I believe I've done, when I wake up to die again, I'm giving things away that no longer serve me,
mm,
right? That no longer advance me becoming a better version of myself today than I was yesterday. And that takes real hard work and real hard discipline and real hard introspection into yourself, right? What you telling yourself the truth. So wake up to die again for me is a beautiful thing. Is because I'm waking up to sacrifice parts of me that no longer serve me so I can be a better version of myself, not only for myself, but my family, my son, my daughter, my neighbors, my friends. And I really think that's a wonderful place to be because, quite frankly, just to jump to the end here, is that to wake up to die again, the better job we do of that, the better person we become, the better world becomes.
100%. And it's a beautiful thing. And when you think about it, something that I've been looking into recently, sort of on this journey of self development and self improvement is in a resistance, and that's a big topic that I've been looking at. And when you was very generous, and you previewed your book with me before it was released when we was doing this. And one of the one of the notes that I made when I was looking through it was, one of the opening lines of your book is, you can only outrun yourself for so long. When did you realize that you in particular was running from yourself?
I love that question. Thank you for asking that. This is happening by the millions. People are running from themselves. And when I noticed it was not until later in my life. And the way I noticed it, I'm going to put it this way. When it came full circle for me was when I began questioning myself about all the broken promises in my life. And you can be of any age and have this happening in your life right now. It doesn't matter how old you're, 18, 22, 32, doesn't matter. When you start doing an examination of the broken promises that you made to yourself in your life, you're going to find out that those broken promises actually carry a weight in your life, right? They have weight.
Mm.
And when I began to address those broken promises, and the first really big one that I addressed that had been a broken promise for 20 years, that I've been promising myself every year, I'm going to do an Ironman race, a 140.6 mile race. Oh, man, I'm really busy right now. I'm not in shape. Oh, I've got to do this. There was always an excuse, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. We can come up with excuses in a snap of a finger of why we can't do something. But when I started examining those broken promises and realizing that I've been lying to myself about all these things, and realizing the reason I felt the way I felt was because I was carrying that weight around. So I decided to do something about it and stop running from myself, because it was me that was telling myself the lies. So how do you stop doing that? Well, I had to make a decision. I can't do all these things at one time. But which one do I really, really want to do? What inspires me? What makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up? And it was the Ironman race.
Mm. I
Right?
mean, it's a hell of an achievement, the Ironman. I mean, I've had another guest on my podcast, Jen Dunn, and she hosts another podcast called The Toughest Finish Line, and she's an Ironman athlete, and
Yeah.
it's so impressive, the resilience that goes into completing something of such a magnitude of that. Do you, how rewarding was it when you actually ticked that bucket list item off after maybe years of putting it off?
Yep. So that was a question I had for myself. So I trained a little bit over 11 months to run the race. And so you can imagine, for many, many months, me asking myself that question, man, what are you going to do when you cross the finish line finally? What is it going to feel like? Are you going to cry? Are you going to yell? Are you going to fall down because what are you going to do?
Mm.
And so there's this question that just screams in your head. And it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be. And when I crossed the finish line, this was the only thing I could say. My daughter was there, my wife were there. And of course, after the hugs and kisses, they were saying, congratulations, great job, all this stuff. I couldn't say anything. And my wife said my knee was really hurting. And so she was going to go get the car. And all I could say, because all I felt was this unbelievable, almost holy thankfulness and gratitude. And my daughter kept saying, she'd say, Dad, are you okay? And all I could say was, I'm so happy, but my knee really hurts. And she would laugh just like that. And we would walk maybe, 100 yards, and she would know I need to stop. And so she'd stop. She'd say, Dad, are you okay?
Mm.
I kid you not, Jack. All I could say was, I'm so thankful, but my knee really hurts. That's all I could say, man.
Yeah. I
I'm
imagine
just
it's so much emotion in it, and so much, like finally done it, when you build up such a sort of momentous
yeah,
like event in your mind, and you finally tick box it. Because a massive thing that you talk about, and it's a reoccurring theme in your book, is not being where you're supposed to be. So I imagine
chapter
when
one.
so I imagine when you get to the place where you've envisaged yourself being, that just must be like a complete weight
It's
lifted.
It is, man, and it's so humbling. And that's why I want everybody to find this place.
Mm.
And what's crazy about finding this place is you can't stay there.
No.
You got to move on. You know what I mean? I can't recreate the feeling from finishing the Ironman finish. I can't recreate it. I can only remember it.
Mm.
And yes, it is. It is a wonderful gift to yourself to have such a beautiful feeling that all you can say is "I'm so thankful." That's all. That's the only words you have is "I'm so thankful," right? But I can't recreate that, and so that's why I have to go out and do more, right?
Just yeah, and it's something that, when you say it, it resonates so much that a lot of what we do and a lot of what people do in this day and age is they accomplish something, you know, momentous like an Ironman or something so impressive like that, and then it's the natural urge to chase that feeling again, isn't it?
It
And
is
you almost dilute what that initial feeling was because you're
correct.
chasing it and then you can never get it again. And then I think sometimes that's how people fall out of love with the process because, it's maybe some things are just designed to be a one-off, like events in your life. Not for maybe not an Ironman, there's many people who do them every year and have that buzz and find it. But for some
But there
people,
can
it's
only
like,
be one first.
there can only be one first, definitely. Yeah. And, one thing that I wanted to ask you, and a little segue, just because in my mind, when you're doing that Ironman, it's hours and hours and hours of just
Yeah.
you and your mind and reflection and that self motivation and probably that inner resistance and inner turmoil. You know, in your book and across things that you've spoke about on like online and things like that, you talk about the different stages of your life, because you was in
Oh,
the army, wasn't you, and now you're
yeah.
sort of in like the corporate world, business world, and things like that.
Yep.
How how much did you reflect during that Ironman and think about them different stages of your life?
None of that occurred until I got to the marathon, the end
Mm,
of the race, the last 26.2 miles. It just didn't. I was too locked in, too zoned in, too
mm,
focused on my training. When I went into the swim, the energy is called the corral. When we're all in there together in this massive human mass of people getting ready to get in the water, the energy is just undescribable. You can feel the energy,
mm,
right? And the anticipation. And so did the swim. Wasn't a lot of thinking on the swim. I was just happy to be there. Hell, I was probably smiling when I was swimming, but I had a personal best in my swim time. I get out of the swim, transition to the bike. It's a 112-mile bike. And the bike was very difficult for me because we had a headwind, a 20 mile an hour headwind. Again, gosh, it's enormous in kilometers, right?
yeah.
It was a 3 loop route. So a headwind out, tailwind coming back. It was the worst 112-mile bike I've ever had in my life in my race. It was awful.
Yeah.
So I was more worried about, did I have enough nutrition? Did I have enough water? All that stuff. Anyway, get to the run. I'm about 2/3 of the way through the run, and my knee starts really hurting. I mean, to the point where my brain said to myself, "Hey, I'm getting ready to send you a signal, and you're going to need to walk."
Mm.
And I said to myself, "You can shut up. We're running."
I love that.
And about that instant, man, I
Mm,
had a twinge in my knee, and I almost fell.
mm.
And I said, "Okay, okay, okay, I'll walk."
Yeah, yeah.
And so I decided I would walk run, and my knee was having none of that. And then I started kind of panicking a little bit because there's a time, right?
Yeah, of
So I
course.
started doing the math in my head about where I was, how far ahead I was, all this stuff, and if and I was walking at a certain pace. And anyway, I'm getting into your question, which is I realized once I did the math and realized if I had to walk the last, what was it, 10 miles ish, 12, maybe I forgot. Anyway, 18, not 7, 8 miles. If I had to walk the last 7 or 8 miles, I was still going to make it. And right then, that's when I knew that as long as I didn't have to crawl, as long as I could walk, I was going to make it. Right.
Mm,
And that's when, of course, the sun was setting, and it was in Arizona in the desert, and the sky was on fire.
yeah.
Okay. It was beautiful. And that's when that flood of emotions started happening, when I knew, again, as long as I wasn't crawling, I knew I was going to be able to make it. And
Mm,
yeah, you start thinking about the weirdest things, about your kids being born. I mean, just certain memories come back. I don't know where they come from. But I was just so happy. People that were not injured were passing me, and I was cheering them on. I'll see at the finish line, you know.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. There was a little girl holding up a sign, a big giant bullseye, and it said "Touch here to power up." Right, little, and so as I'm run walking by, I lean over and hit the sign, and she yelled "Thank you." And it was like, I was like, my God, I'm out here suffering, and I needed to thank her, and she's thanking me, you know. And anyway, it's just weird stuff like that.
And it's an amazing thing, isn't it? The like the community side of it, and you know when you like you said that energy of you all going on like embarking on the
Yeah,
same journey and being there, and you know I think I always like to ask the guests is about you know their background and how they got to where they are. And I know you mentioned in the book when you was in high school you had a teacher who said you weren't cut out for certain things, and then you joined the army and you said that was like a lightning bolt moment
yeah,
for you.
yeah.
What was that? What was that like phase of your life like? You know, as a young man, and then you know dealing with these sort of issues that come up for all of us.
They do. Yeah, I mean, early in my life, and I'm going to speak very transparently here, because
Hmm.
if I don't, then nobody's going to understand this. I grew up in a family that was a faith-based family, okay, but we didn't go to church. But we believed there was a higher power. We believed there was a God, and but we didn't go to church in the U.S. And that was when you grow up in that here in the U.S. in that world. There's expectations that comes with that, right? There's a living standard that comes with that, and I start out with that because during my high school years, I was a great athlete in basketball. I was capable of going to play in college. I was a decent track athlete. I was a terrible student because all I cared about was, having fun on weekends. So in that formative time, that was really what again, having fun and not focusing on school, and having fun with friends and playing basketball in the summer year round. And I just lived life, Jack. I didn't even think about tomorrow. It was a period of time where when I literally say I did not think about tomorrow, didn't think about tomorrow, got me in trouble too,
Mm,
right? And I only mention all of that because when that teacher told me that I wasn't college material, but then my coach was telling me, hey, if you want to play basketball in college, you need to let me know because I need to make some phone calls. And my dad and mom set me down and said, listen, you've got three choices after high school. They're not in any order, but let me give you those three choices, Scott. You can go to college, or go to college. Let us know. Right.
wow.
So for me as a young man, that was my first time of this immense self-created pressure of, oh my God, what am I going to do with my life?
Mm,
And that was a big deal for me. And I've said this a lot here recently, but this commercial came on in America, and it's a famous commercial from the late 1980s, and tells you how old I am. In the late 1980s, and it was the commercial said, "Be all you can be, and join the United States Army.
mm,
We do more before 8 a.m. than most people do all day." And Jack, I sat up out of my bed as if lightning had struck. Makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up right now,
yeah.
because I knew that I was going to go in the Army. Right. So formatively, early in my life, first real lightning bolt strike, trying to figure out what I was going to do. Another lightning strike, going in the military, and I excelled in the military. Right. Then I went over to the desert, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, 2 years in Germany. I was with the 1st Infantry Division, a famous American military unit. And all of those things really changed me as a young person, and gave me an understanding. I didn't know what to call it then, but an understanding of what a lightning strike in my life was going to look like,
Mm,
and how I was going to respond to those things. Right. So the military changed me significantly. And it was a course correction in my life, if you will, that changed it forever, sent me into the direction I am right now.
yeah, and you talk about you know you've highlighted it there about like the discipline, the structure, the routine that the army gave you, and you know it was a turning point in your life, and it was like a course correction. I think to quote what you just said, but it it wasn't all sort of like sunshines and rainbows from it, would it? You've mentioned about like control and what it did to you in that regard. Do you want to go into them details if you don't mind a little bit?
No, no, not at all. I've been asked before, what were the biggest gifts that the military gave you? Was it discipline? Was it execution? Getting things done? What was it? And I
Mm,
go, no, it was really three words. I left the United States Army with three words, and I still use them today. And those three words are make it happen. And I love those three words because they mean break it, move it, dig under it, climb over it. You do what you need to do, make it happen.
mm,
It also means shut your excuses up, right? It means all that. But discipline is inside make it happen. Execution, the art of getting things done, is inside the words make it happen. Okay. And those are wonderful gifts to get from the military, but they will take you places you're not supposed to be as well.
mm.
Sometimes the resistance we feel when we're trying to do something, that resistance is there because you're not supposed to be there. It's not just resistance, meaning you need to push forward. It's a danger, Will Robinson, don't go there,
Yeah.
right? So when I was in the military, again, I had wonderful leaders. Yes, I had a wonderful time. Yes, I got to see the world. And yes, it gave me those skill sets, but it gave me some very powerful skill sets that when I got out of the military did not translate in the civilian, because I went to college after the military. So when you take that make it happen attitude and the military drops you into a college environment where the professors don't care if you show up to class, where the people that you're with are all civilians. Matter of fact, I had just got back from Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Mm,
I was still shaking sand out of my underwear. Okay.
yeah.
And I'm in college talking like in the military, like I'm in the military to people that are 18, 19 years old that are freshmen. Dude, we are on two different planets, man. I could have been speaking German to them. They wouldn't have known it,
Mm,
you know? Um, so I think a lot of people right now that I run into in their own world are having these, they're getting these wonderful lessons and they may even know the right things to do. But I think their struggle is one of the great struggles right now is that going back to these broken promises, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you've broken enough promises to yourself, you don't trust yourself anymore.
mm.
And if you don't trust yourself anymore, if you think you're going to wake up and everything's going to be okay tomorrow, you're just going to wake up to die again a little bit more tomorrow. You've got to do something about that. And so that transition from high school to the military, those early lightning strikes in my life helped me understand what they look like. But then it took me many, many, many years after that to learn how to deal with those when they happen.
I love that, and sort of it's just sort of put a question into my mind. You talk about leaving the military and then going into a completely different structure and a completely different routine based world where you're with civilians after being out like in
Yep.
in a war zone, and
Yeah.
obviously the military you mentioned there about some of maybe the stereotypical things that civilians think that
Yep.
the military gives you, but I imagine it's very much an environment where it's like toughness, status, achievement.
Yes.
You're the man out. You push through, like the big dog sort of thing. Because
Yeah.
you have to be. I imagine when you're in them
100%.
heightened environments, danger is everywhere. So when you came back into the civilian world, what what were some of the biggest sort of lessons that pulled you out of that and essentially brought you back into maybe that civilian mindset?
Yeah. I wish I could say it pulled me out. It steamrolled me,
Yeah.
rolled over me. So I'll give you a quick example, even a military one.
Mm,
I want to say I had 2 weeks when I transitioned back. I think I had a couple of weeks before I had to report to my next duty station. So in the United States, after you leave your regular Army full time, you can go into what's called the National Guard, and you train once a month on the weekends and 2 weeks in the summer. So I continued my service in the Army when I got out of the full time Army, right, regular duty, and went into the National Guard. So I had to report. Man, I show up in my uniform that had razor sharp creases in it. My boots were polished so good you could shave out of them.
Mm.
Haircut, right? We called that in the military high speed, low drag. That's what
Yeah.
we called it. Okay. I show up, walk in there with authority, Jack, and there's two guys sitting behind two Army desks. And I walk in and snap to attention. I said, Sergeant Lackey reporting for duty. And they turned around and looked at me like I had three heads. And one of them said, yo, man, I don't know what the hell is going on here, but you need to relax that crap. That was, and man, that broke my heart. I thought,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
the hell did I join?
Mm.
Right? I did. I was like, what the hell did I come into here? And so that was I'll never forget that. That was a very early awakening, right? And then talk about the civilian life. My very first class in college was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning class, 8 a.m. on military history. I intentionally took that. I said, this is going to be my first A. Sat down in class the first day, and the professor proceeded to open his lecture about all the reasons why we should not be in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait, and why the United States military is a bunch of this and that, really super negative things. And that was crushing to me
Yeah.
because I wanted to get up out of my chair and take him outside
Yeah.
and teach him about the United States Army,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's what I wanted to do. But I exercised restraint and listened, and I ended up failing that class because I stopped going,
Mm.
right? This is all in the span of 2 weeks after coming back from, the
Yeah.
Army. And so those were the shocks to me of you're not there anymore, man. And I started to realize I wasn't there, but I didn't know where I was. And that's why chapter 1 in my book says you're not where you're supposed to be. Okay. And I didn't know where I was supposed to be, but it darn sure wasn't where I was.
Yeah.
And even interactions with women, other men, I just have this mindset. Let's go take the hill. Let's go.
Mm.
And they're like, dude, you need to relax. You need to calm down. You need to take some medicine or something. Well, let's just walk. Or I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. We spoke different languages. I wanted to make it happen.
Mm.
And I even got that disappointment from my professors because I left the military. You don't know this, Jack. I left the military with my first invention. And I thought that my professors would be a great resource to go to help me with this invention.
Mm.
And it was a disaster.
Yeah.
So man, I can't say the civilian world rolled over the top of me and shook me. And it was not, it took me almost, I want to say almost 3 years. It wasn't until my junior year, into my junior year, I would say, where I started feeling a little bit more like a civilian. But the scary part of that is that I loved being in the military. Well, I didn't love everything about the military, but I did love being in the military. So I actually felt like I was losing a part of myself I couldn't get back the longer I was a civilian.
Mm. That makes perfect sense because I imagine it's such a deep rooted sense of identity that
1,000%, man.
and you've spoken there about like failure, maybe some blind spots that you
Yeah,
picked up from coming,
yeah.
living this life that was so regimented,
Structure. Yeah,
structured, and you come into like a normal, not well, normal quote unquote life where it's probably a lot more malleable. There's probably a lot more this could happen, this might happen, who knows what sort of thing. What was like the breaking point of almost succumbing and not, because some people come out of the army, I think the point that I'm trying to make, and they can never let go of it, can they? They're always sort of in that mindset and they can never adjust, unfortunately.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I imagine there's almost like a breaking point and a like pull the pin and let the carriage go and sort of like, right, I'm just gonna have to go here.
Beautifully said, dude. That translates perfectly. Pull the pin, and whatever happens, happens.
Mm.
And that can be a beautiful place, believe it or not. Okay. And the final straw, the end of the rope, pull the pin moment was I had struggled for a long time to try to get my invention to work. Get some funding, prototypes, find somebody that believed in it. And one night I saw a commercial on TV. It was very popular back then in the United States of this company. I think it was called the National Idea Center. And they promoted that if you'll invest in one of their packages, they will help take your invention to market.
Mm.
And so I made the phone call as a kind of a last ditch effort. And they told me it was, that they did an assessment, right? It said for $10,000, they'll help me take my product to market. I had saved up $3,000. That's all I had in my life. I met this gentleman a couple of weeks later who was the president of a local bank. And to fast forward, he gave me, or let me borrow from the bank, $7,000, a loan for $7,000. So I'd have 10, and I invested it with that company. And everything was great in the beginning. Letters were going out, phone calls were being made. And then the phone calls got a little bit shorter. The mail stopped coming. The voicemails stopped getting returned. And then one day the phone didn't work. And this was over, 4 or 5 months. And then I found out, I got a letter from the government, United States government, where they had shut the company down because it was a fraud company and they had swindled people out of $60 million.
Wow.
That was the final straw. That was it. I mean, I was broken at that point. I didn't know what to, lost, absolutely lost. No longer military identity. The one thing that I left the military with, that make it happen mindset, was going to be invested in my invention. Mm-hmm. And that was going to be my career, was now destroyed. So now I don't know where I'm at. I don't know how I got there. And I damn sure did not know how to get out of it. And dude, at that time I was smoking in my life.
Yeah.
I was smoking a lot.
Yeah.
Sitting in my apartment, smoking and just staring at the floor because I didn't know what to do.
Mm. You talk about ownership a lot in your book. And was that the moment when you sort of wanted to take the reins and be like, right, fuck this, I'm in charge. I'm the pilot of my own ship. Well, captain of my own ship, should I say? But
Famous
was that the moment?
No, it wasn't that moment, but it was I shouldn't say it wasn't that moment. It was in that frame. There were days that went by with me pacing around, kind of mindlessly, not knowing what to do. And I do write about this in my book. Because I vividly remember it, is that one night I just got up. I don't even know why. I just got up off my couch and walked around the corner. I lived in a small studio apartment. I walked around the corner and there were, my bed was there. I just got down on my knees. I just laid across the bed and I just said, I don't know what you want. I was talking to God. I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't understand. I didn't even know what to say. That's all I could say. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't understand. I quit. Yeah. I don't know, stayed there for a little while, ended up going to bed, and that was it. But I will say this, and I do write about this in detail in the book, from that moment moving forward, incrementally, lily pad after lily pad, step after step, the water temperature started to change. And I talk about this in great detail in the book. Things began to change, that there is no way on this blue planet that I could have known about it or I could have done it, because it happened from people I had never met before in my life. Okay. And again, I've walked through this in detail in the book. So yeah, there was that breaking point. I know exactly when it was. And things started to change after that. And some people like to call that was the moment where I kind of just surrendered and said, I quit. When I pulled the pin, hell yeah, that's what it was. I pulled the pin, said, blow it all up, burn it down. I don't care anymore. I don't care. Burn it down. And as it started to get better, the next thing you know, this company that had come into my life accidentally ends up offering me a job in the city that I wanted to work in my entire life, Dallas, Texas. And I ended up getting the job and moving to Dallas after graduation.
And is that the segue and how you sort of got into like the business world and what
100%, man. 100%. Came out of nowhere. Absolutely came out of nowhere, man.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like people think, and we almost aren't curious enough in this day and age. We almost want to know every step. We almost
Of
want to
course.
know where we're going to be, and sometimes it's the situations you can never even imagine that are the ones that
I
change your
I
life.
have found in my life it is never, and I'm glad for this, it is never what I think it's going to be because my thinking, my earthly thinking is so shallow. It's always
Mm,
better than I think when I get there. Just like finishing the Ironman race, man. It
yeah,
was better than anything I could ever imagine. Right. But to the audience, there I guarantee you there's somebody right now listening to this that may be on their way to the same place I was where they pull the pin and say, screw this, I don't care anymore. Well, this is something I learned in my life because this happened to me more than once, is that all those thoughts that we have that this is the end, I want you to reprogram yourself because here's what I've learned. It's actually not the end. It's the beginning. And
and
the
would
beginning's a beautiful place to be. Go ahead.
and you know that in a monologue that you talk about there, would that be what you describe as the enemy within? Because that's something that you talk about in the book and the idea of that.
Yeah. Well, the enemy within, it's the voice we all have. We all have the
Mm,
voice that tells us, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." Or how about when I wake up in the morning, I need to do a run. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. It's windy, temperature's cold, maybe a little rainy over there across the pond.
yeah, always. Yeah.
You know, and that voice says, "Hey, Scott, and you have to get up today.
Mm,
You've been doing so good. Oh, the workouts, the attitude. You need to get some rest today. Don't worry about that run today." Right? That's the voice we have to overcome. And I'll never forget on one particular run where that voice said that crap to me. And it said the following statement: nobody's going to know.
mm,
Dude, I sat up in my bed. That pissed me off. And it pissed me off because I said, what the hell are you talking about? I'm going to know. I don't give a crap what other people know. I'm going to know. This isn't
mm,
for them. This is for me. What do you mean nobody's going to know? And I never forgot that. I use that today. Matter of fact, that voice doesn't use that against me anymore because it touched the live wire,
yeah.
right? And that's something that I hope the listeners hear is that the most important, if you're in that place, the most important the most important thing you need to know about yourself is that you're going to know. That's where the broken promises come from.
Yeah.
Okay, so that negative voice that we have, don't run from that. Listen to it. Just don't do what it says. You can listen. You don't have to do it, and
Yeah.
you know what the right decision is. Make the right decision. Right.
100%. And that is, again, I think it aligns so well with the idea of that inner resistance and the fact that you should try and conquer that inner resistance because most of the time that's just the soft side of you with
Yeah.
telling you what you want to hear. It's giving you that pat on the back, and like you said, oh, your bed feels that little bit comfier this morning. It's nice and warm. Just stay there. But when you get out and you do it, it, it makes a world of difference. I think it was Huberman said about, if something can give you instant dopamine and you've not worked for it and you've not earned it, then it's
He,
useless dopamine. The ones that you
yep.
want, the dopamine you want is the one where you've fucking worked hard for it and you deserve it. And I think that when I heard that, that was a big lightning bolt maybe for me as well.
Yep, it is, and he did say that. I've heard him say that, and that's the beauty of the work is that when people ask me, Scott, why do you think you felt this overwhelming, unbelievable, powerful force of thankfulness when you crossed the finish line? It's because I did the work.
The honesty.
Yeah, that's why I felt it. It was this flood of emotions from 11 and a half months of work, of not breaking promises to myself when I had stitches and blood running down my arm, and I rode my bike anyway, right? When it was raining outside, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? It's raining." I'm like, "I'm getting my run in," and it was one of the best runs ever. And I ran in the heat, and I ran in the perfect weather conditions. You know what I mean? I swam in the cold water, swam in the wet sea, swam in the muddy water, all that stuff. It just built up this wellspring of thankfulness. And I hope the listeners, by the way, it's important that I say this really quick. We talk about these big things, the Ironman, the Army, all this stuff. I don't want people to get lost in that. Okay. Don't get lost in that because you need to start small. My recommendation, just like I did, everything I did, I started small because I had to restore trust with myself. And you have to restore the trust in yourself that you can actually do something, or you're going to go 3 or 4 days and you're going to lie to yourself again and you're going to wonder how you got here.
100%.
And so I would just encourage the audience to do the little things to restore trust in yourself. And the little things, by the way, is today I'm going to do X and only focus on today, whatever that is, just today. Don't worry about tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes up. Okay. Can't handle yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Today I'm going to do Y. Focus on the little things. And if you do enough of those things, you're going to look back in a week or 30 days or 11 and a half months, and you're going to cross an Ironman finish line in your life.
It's the compounding effect, isn't it? I always think
It is.
that investing is always the best analogy when it comes to these micro wins, and progress isn't always linear, but the longer you stay in the battle and the longer you stay in the run, the better the outcome usually at the
Is
end.
it
And
not true of weightlifting?
yeah, weightlifting, the gym. I actually said that. I did a solo podcast last week, and I was talking about how I think society needs to embrace the gym culture of failure, because the culture of failure in the gym is probably one of the only few places where it's accepted, where you can go in and you can push for that extra rep, and
Yes,
you might
sir.
only get it halfway up, but you'll come out and you'll be like, right, well, that's half more than last week. I might have not got it, but I know I'm nearly there. But if you leave the gym and you go to work and you nearly close that deal,
Yeah.
oh fucking, it's a catastrophe. But you need to reflect and look at the positives of, oh well, actually I got to the negotiation stage this time. It wasn't just an outreach. I actually brought
Yep.
my progress from the last time. What did I do? Analyze that and then work on progressing from that point. And I think a lot of us just it it's almost it's, we have an expression over here. I don't know if you have it over there, but it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Oh, we
And
say the same thing.
yeah, so
Listen, we probably got it from you. You kidding me?
but that is the people are, it's feast or famine. It's one or the other. They can I think in society today we don't see the grey. I think sometimes the beauty is in the grey.
Yeah. No, it is. And I love how you said that. I talk about this. You need to do enough work so that you get invited into the room.
Mm,
When you make it into the room, you need to do some more work so you have a right to sit at the table.
100%.
And if you keep doing the work, you're going to have the right, you will have earned the right to speak to the people at the table. And if you keep doing the work, the people at the table are going to start asking you what you think.
Mm,
And if you keep doing the work, you're going to be able to participate in the decisions.
yeah, yeah.
And if you keep doing the work, when you start making the decisions, other people are going to listen to you because you did the work.
Proofs in the pudding.
It's simple to say, but then there was that one word that Jack and I talk about all the time, right? Work. You got to do the work. Even if you suck at doing the work, do the work.
It's the only way to get better, isn't it?
That is it.
Mm,
Secret sauce. And we're not the first two to say it, but we had to learn it.
yeah, and again, I think a massive thing for me over I think this is episode 72 that I've done of this podcast, and a big learning curve was that it's just about turning up most of the time. It's about, you only get better by doing, and you know you're not gonna reach the goal by just sitting on your hands and waiting for it to happen, because you've not earned it. And I think that analogy you've just given us there is a perfect example of that, about building through your steps and earning the right to be where you are at the table.
Yeah. I write a story in my book, which I won't tell the whole story, but I write a story in my book of how I did some incredible strategic things. Just, I'm telling you, they were incredible. Um, Generated the president and CEO of American Airlines sending me a letter inviting me to an interview, a business interview. Okay. That would be the equivalent of, of uh, the president and CEO of British Airways sending you a letter, a written letter.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, just because I had the strategy to get in the room did not mean that I had the skill set to stay in the room.
Mm.
And I was exited out of the room quickly. Not physically,
Yeah.
figuratively. Okay.
Mm.
It's a wonderful story in the book, but this whole talking about showing up and doing the work, um, it there's no guarantee we know that any of this is going to, it's going to happen. But one of the challenges that I have for myself is to stop. This is a big deal for me. Is I work very hard now, not measuring myself off of distance anymore.
Mm.
That doesn't mean I don't look at distance, right? When I'm in the gym, am I getting stronger? I look at distance. I just don't measure myself off of distance anymore. Well, if I don't do that, well, then what do I measure myself off of? It's direction.
Mm.
When you measure yourself off direction, then failure can be treated as a gift, not a punishment.
Makes perfect sense. That when you're doing something that aligns with your core values and there's an end goal in mind, you'll be passionate enough and aware enough to keep persisting to get where you need to go. So failure is just a step closer in that regard. And
It's
again, it goes
it,
back to the gym culture of that mindset of it's not the be all and end all to fail, and people probably need to fail a lot more to feel a lot more comfortable in their
yeah.
life.
Well, again, that's another saying that I have. Yeah, and you're segueing into it is, and you will know exactly what I mean. This is the failure culture. The
Mm.
more this is I say this all the time to myself. The more of myself I sacrifice, the more of myself I find.
Mm.
That's the failure culture.
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
gym, the more I'm willing to go in and lift the weights to the point of failure where I can't get the rep off my chest to
yeah.
the point of failure. The more you do that, the more of yourself you're going to find.
100%. And I think there's a quote from, I'm going to try and find his name. He's the author of the War of Art, Stephen Pressfield. He
I don't know.
he wrote the book The War of Art, and he says that when you when you work towards the inner resistance and not away from it, that's the work your soul wants. That's what's taking you to align more to your soul purpose, because it's that voice what told you not to go on that run. But when you actually go on that run, that's you connecting with that goal and that core value and doing what you want to do. And it's about channeling into, again, the enemy within and fighting it and combating it and not letting it be,
Yep.
the marquee presence in your mind.
Yep. Well, people talk about, I'm curious how you handle this. I have a specific answer to this, but I get asked this all the time. How do you handle that voice that's telling you not to do these things or you need to quit or how does Jack handle that voice when it shows up in his life? How do you handle it in your life?
That's a great question. And again, the thing that I value myself on is being transparent with my listeners and with my guests. And it's a voice that I've struggled with all my life. It's a voice that I still struggle with now, but I have a better grip of the range. I can control the bull a little bit more. The
Yeah,
rodeo can get a bit fierce sometimes, but
yeah,
there was a big part of me, and still is a big part of me, that suffers greatly with imposter syndrome. Doesn't believe they deserve to do this. Who am
yep,
I? Is a question.
yep,
Like, who am I to sit here with you, Scott? But someone's got to do it. Like,
right.
not that's no disrespect to me or you, but like, if
No,
I'm not doing it, who's going to do it? So like
yep,
that's the motivation inside me, and I'm like, I'm the one who's going to do it. If someone's got to do it, it's going to be me that's going to do it. And that's only something that I've developed over the last, 18 months, 2 years, is having that confidence, and but real confidence. I feel like there's been a time in my life when I've personified confidence, but it's been bullshit. It's been bollocks.
yeah, yeah,
It's been like almost pseudo confidence. It's just been a front. It's been a mask. And if you take that mask away, there's someone there who's maybe
much better
anxious.
version.
Yeah, and like now channeling into that person and learning about him and listening to that, and not doing things for other people, and doing, not to a degree, not doing things for people that wouldn't do the same for me, and then channeling into the people that would do the same for me and channeling into my own core values. I believe that's aligned me with that voice, and the arguments aren't as tumultuous now. There's a bit more synergy between us, if that answers your question.
It does. It beautifully answers it. And I like how you answered it, because you described it in such a way that I relate to, is that you had to wrestle with it and you still wrestle with it, right? There's an engagement. Okay. And that's an important part of what you just said, is there's an engagement. You don't try to stay disengaged, you engage. And that's a big deal. And so I now want to take it one step further. This is because I went through the same process in my own way. And here's where I ultimately landed, because I wanted a succinct answer for myself of how am I going to deal with this voice when it shows up. And this is the sentence I came up with. It's not a negotiation anymore. Simple as that. So when that voice shows up for me and it says, yeah, Scott, you did an Ironman. Congratulations. Yeah. I know we talked about all that, but nobody wants to talk about some stupid book idea you have. Nobody's going to listen to what you have to say. Nobody cares. Why do you think anybody's going to care about what you have to say? Just do Ironmans. That was the voice, bro. After all that work, accomplishing the Ironman, all that stuff, voice came back because I was getting ready to address another broken promise. The promise I'd made myself to write a book. So the voice began to attack. You just need to be quiet. Don't embarrass yourself. And then that was the sentence that came to me. No, that was the sentence that came to me. I said, hey, man, this isn't a negotiation. I'm driving the car. You're in the back seat. Can't make you shut up. You can keep talking. And I started writing the book. And I'll tell you one other part of that. It went immediately to attacking. Once I started writing the book of nobody's going to listen to you, nobody cares, over and over and over, Jack, over and over and over. And then I remembered the run during the Ironman. Wait a minute. I care. It matters to me. It doesn't matter if anybody else reads my book. I care. And that voice went away. What's my point? And maybe you can use this as a tool for you. Is when the voice shows up, you can listen, but it's not a negotiation. You've already made the decision. The right man, Jack, made the decision. Jack's moving forward, right? It's not a negotiation. So I hope that helps you.
It's beautiful, Matt, and thank you for sharing that. And it's definitely food for thought, because now I'm sat here thinking, listening to someone else who it becomes relatable and it becomes like a shared experience, and listening to you explain it, it almost like when you're on the right path, aligning with what you want to do and who you want to be, that voice and that inner monologue isn't aligned with that purpose. It's almost like the petulant child. The more you tell it off and the more you ignore it, the bigger the voice comes, the more it's kicking and screaming. But that should be a sign of maybe positiveness. That should be a sign.
Yeah, we need to have a conversation.
Yeah, I'm doing what I should be doing, because there's always going to be inner monologue, and I'm not sat here saying you should ignore the voice, because it might be a voice of reason sometimes, but sometimes it's not. And it's about learning that. And I think that was my biggest battle was, again, it's not negotiation. It's my decision, what I listen to and how I act from going forward.
And then the voice, once you have that firewall up, that this is not a negotiation, I'm going to go do X. Well, the voice will look for another weakness.
100%.
Right? And the next weakness was, after this is not a negotiation, and it stops saying you're not qualified, nobody wants to read your book. Oh, by the way, let me just, for the listeners, so the book is published, and I guess that voice was wrong. It's a #1 new release and #2 on the bestseller list.
Which is amazing.
Glad I didn't listen.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, when you get past it's not a negotiation, then the voice, again, likes to attack something else. But I just keep coming back to the same place. And by the way, yes, sometimes I listen, because sometimes that voice may say something and I ask this question, hey, what are you trying to attack? What are you so scared I'm going to discover? That's why I don't run from the voice. Tell me what you have to say in great clarity. Blow it out. Pull the pin, because I'm going to listen. And then I'm going to make a decision. And then once I make a decision, this is no longer a negotiation. See the difference?
Yeah, 100%. And now hopefully people take a lot from that. And, you know, we've flown through nearly an hour now, and I'm sure we could do another hour if we wanted to. But how I always sort of wrap the podcast up is there's two
Yeah.
questions that I asked the guest, and the first one was if you could recommend three habits or routines to the everyday person, what would they be and why?
Let me just be brief here. Number one, we talked about this already. I'm going to focus on the millions of people that are waking up to die again by giving a part of themselves away, losing a part of themselves every day. That's what I'm going to focus on, that listener. Okay. These aren't any priority. These are just things to think about. Three things. One, start with the small things. Learn to trust yourself again. Do some basic things in your life where you can learn to trust yourself, that you made a promise to yourself and you actually did it. Rebuild that trust. It'll start moving you in the right direction. You can worry about where and what later. You don't have to jump out and say, I'm going to do an Ironman. Okay. That's number one. I call them lily pads.
Love
Number
that.
two, number two, the world tells you it's all about addition. If I can just get this, if I can just get around the corner, just over the horizon, get the gym membership, get the shoes, get the right tripod to record my camera, my workouts. That's another story. But it's about addition. Here's what I want you to think about. It's not about addition, it's about subtraction. It's about what you need to stop doing so that you can gain the things that you need.
Mm.
I know it's a paradox. Think about it. It is probably for you more about what you need to stop doing than it ever was about what you need to do. So subtraction, not addition. That's number
Quality
two.
over quantity, isn't it?
100%. Okay. And then number three, you're going to need to start believing in yourself again. Okay. Stop, to the best of your ability, looking for other people to validate who you are, for a possession to make you feel peace and love and joy, for a person to tell you look good. You need to turn around and look at yourself in the mirror. Tell yourself the truth of who you are, what you've done, how far you've fallen, whatever it is. Tell yourself the truth. Forgive yourself. It's okay. Because the sooner you admit who you are, then you can begin to build who you want to be. And by the way, people like to talk about, I'm going to rebuild. I don't believe in that. Okay. Don't rebuild what you already are. Build something better.
Mm.
Those are three things that I would communicate.
Love that. Super powerful and super relatable. Thank you for sharing them. And finally, the last question to put you on the spot a little bit. If there was one habit or routine that you could implement into your life that you've never done before, or you have done and don't do it anymore, what would that one habit or routine be and why?
You could not have come up with the one question I know the exact answer to, because I am starting this what we're about to answer. I am starting this on Tuesday. My daughter's getting married this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I come home on Monday, and starting on Tuesday, where I am going to, when I say minimize, I'm going to consume nothing more than, what is it, 40 grams of carb? No, 25 grams of carbs a day.
Mm.
High protein diet, vegetables, meats, right? I've never done that in my life. I'm not a horrible carb consumer,
Mm.
but I have never been able to discipline myself to eat in such a way, in macros, right,
Mm.
that really, I believe, change everything physically about a human being when you're eating vegetables, fruits, meat, poultry, etc. And so I'm actually excited about this because I'm treating this like an Ironman, in the sense that I don't know how Tuesday is going to go. I've never done this in my life, Jack, ever.
Mm.
Okay. And so this is going to be a big deal for me. And I'm curious to see how my body transforms, how my workouts are impacted, how my sleep's impacted, by going down this path, man. So that's what I'm
Yeah.
going to do starting Tuesday. And it's going to be very interesting to see the physical changes.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hearing about it and seeing how it goes. Thank you for sharing them things with us, and thank you for coming on the podcast. it's been amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope the wedding goes well this
Um,
weekend. So send all my best wishes to the family and things like that. And you know, keep smashing it with the book. Keep doing what you're doing. I think your message is amazing. And we was talking about these unpredictable events in life, and this is one of them. There'd never been a time where we would have ever sat down on a call or
that's right.
potentially in a room and have a chat, and I'm very thankful that we've had that opportunity to do so. But before we go, let people know where they can find you, where they can find the book, how they can buy the book, and
Okay.
find out more about yourself.
Thank you very much. Two things. So if you want to find more about me, it's easy. It's easy. My website, scottlackey.com. Easy.
Hmm.
What I would equally want to challenge you to do is, as Jack verified for me, it's supposed to be available there, and it is available there on Amazon.
Hmm.
And the name of the book is Wake Up to Die Again. It will not be a waste of time if you're willing to invest some time and read that book. And I would love, and I know Jack would love as well, if you get the book, we'd love to hear what changes you made, because chapter one starts out with "You're not where you're supposed to be." And hopefully, I'm going to be over there soon, speaking at some business event or some conference. And Jack and I are going to get together. Maybe we host an event where we all get together and talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this stuff.
That'd be class. But yeah, I'll put the link for your website and I'll put the link for the book in the description. And it's been a real, honestly, a real pleasure. So thank you very much, mate, for coming on and sacrificing your time in such a chaotic little period of your life. But yeah, thank you, and it's been a real good chat.
Thank you. And I do want to say this to you. It wasn't a sacrifice today. This meant a lot to me to come on your platform, Jack. And I just want from me to man, to know you're doing a great job. And the message that you're spreading is important. And continue to not negotiate with yourself, because we need you out there. Okay.
I deeply appreciate that, mate. Thank you. It means a lot. But
All right.
yeah,
Talk again soon.
yeah, definitely, mate. We'll definitely catch up soon.